Whenever I need a break from whatever game I'm playing, I will always find myself going back to Dynasty Warriors. It's my guilty pleasure game, the game where I go to mindlessly just have some fun. And the next entry is here. Dynasty Warriors Origins keeps that same joy of defeating thousands of enemies while also adding in some great new mechanics with a JRPG focus instead of just pure hack and slash. And in this video, I'm going to show you how Dynasty Warriors Origins is running on the Steam Deck and answer the question of whether you should be playing this on the Steam Deck at all. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as our next video goes live. The game was also recorded on the Steam Deck directly, so the performance that you get will be slightly better than what you're going to be seeing in this video. Going into Dynasty Warriors Origins, I was initially a little bit worried about how it was going to perform. While previous entries of the series are playable, this one looked like it leaned more towards higher fidelity. However, the demo did run decently, so I was hopeful. And luckily, that hope was not misplaced, and is generally quite playable on the Steam Deck. I started the game with the default settings, which are almost all on low, without any upscaling, and it held pretty well. Outside of 3 to 4 different moments in a couple of battles, the game held at 30 frames per second the entire time without any TDP limit. There were about 2 moments where the game froze for a second, but otherwise it was pretty great to see this game so playable without upscaling. To see if I could mitigate those few moments to get it to a straight, smooth 30 FPS, I did try upscaling, but I really disliked the results. Almost all of the FSR3 options had some graphical artifacting or other visual bug which ruled out using it entirely. Then we have XeSS, which works with no visual problems, but gets a little bit too blurry without actually fixing the problem completely. I tested XeSS Ultra Performance in one of the few problem areas I found that are a bit heavier for the system, and while it does improve the overall frame rate by 4 to 5 frames, it still doesn't hit 30 and drains the battery a lot. With how sharp the game looks without any upscaling, I preferred not to use it at all. It did hit performance a little bit more and it does drain more battery, but the game looks fantastic both in combat and up close in cutscenes. I did play around with the settings to see if we could push it a little bit further, but I noticed more drops than before without huge improvements to how the game looks. So I recommend just keeping everything at the default settings. I did also play around with the TDP limit at these areas to see if we could save on battery, and while it does help a little bit, it brings the drain down from 21 watts to around 17 watts to 18 watts, I noticed more stuttering and 1-second freezes than before. So to keep the experience as stable as possible, I would say there should be no TDP limit. Without a limit, your battery drain will probably be somewhere around 16 watts to 20 watts on average. While I was testing these settings, I did also test to see if I could push the frame rate up to 40 and see if that was even possible. But with how demanding Origins is in combat, it would regularly sit at around 35 to 36 FPS when you started fighting. Because of this, the most stable way to play is the 30 FPS lock, which it will default to on the Steam Deck in-game. I know on the surface it doesn't sound great where you have to lock the frame rate to 30 frames per second, you have to stick to lower quality settings, and the battery drain is going to be high, but I do want to commend Koei Tecmo for optimizing this game pretty well. The Steam Deck preset that they made works well and keeps the game looking really nice, and has some extra settings enabled I wouldn't have expected, like volumetric fog and having a high view distance with a lot of characters on screen, which really helps with the visuals. The game does ask for a minimum NVIDIA GTX 1060 card, which is on the high end for the Steam Deck, so I'm very happy the game is playing as well as it is, even though it's asking for a minimum requirement that is pretty high. I was playing around with the settings and considering making another group to try to save on battery, but I found there were too many sacrifices to the visual quality. XeSS would be needed for this, but it just ends up making the game too blurry for me to enjoy. It also made some parts where the game would drop before a bit worse because now it's constrained on power, which really doesn't feel great. In the end, there were too many sacrifices that hurt the experience without enough improvements to recommend any other groups of settings. Valve also did rate the game Steam Deck playable due to small in-game text, but throughout my time playing, I didn't find anything that was unreadable. There is no 16:10 resolution support, so there are going to be black bars at the top and bottom of your screen while playing, but there are both cloud saves and really solid controller support. There are also HDR settings, and it recognizes the Steam Deck OLED screen, so you can enable it. Honestly, this might be my favorite Dynasty Warriors game that I've played to date, or at least in my top 3. I like the focus that they went on for a more JRPG-like experience, while still keeping the gameplay mechanics of the older games intact. Being able to swap out your weapons on the fly, having a more cinematic experience while you're playing, and being able to control troops and employ tactics to demolish large enemies and armies is just really fun to do. And having all the new mechanics with an overworld where you do constantly try to rank up, get proficient with new weapons and more is just really enjoyable. And I'm very happy to say how playable Dynasty Warriors Origin is on the Steam Deck, and I do recommend playing it this way. You can grab Dynasty Warriors Origins on Steam for $69.99 or get the Digital Deluxe Edition for $89.99 to play a couple of days early before its January 16th release. You can also grab it on Fanatical at 18% off for $57.39 for the standard version and $73.79 for the Digital Deluxe. The link to the Fanatical page is in the description, and it is an affiliate link, so if you do purchase it this way, thank you for supporting us. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as our next video goes live. And a big thank you to our patrons. You guys are awesome. See you next time.